Everybody doing all right? Every once in a while, I haven't seen anybody fall asleep yet. I taught a class years ago, and it was kind of funny because it was my first introduction to teaching back in 2000 or 2001. And it was a large class. It was Introduction to Business. I mean, what's more exciting than that one? All right? 450 kids in one section, 450 in the next. 900 kids through 2 hours. It was an exhausting 2 hours. Okay? They're freshmen, maybe some sophomores or transfer students. So they're kind of not used to college. And it was in this large room. I mean, you got to put 450. That's a theater style room. And so I'd go to work early, and then I'd get in class. Started at 9 or 9:30. So it's for freshmen. That's like dawn. And it looked like a wave at a football game. Hands were just bouncing. You could just see them, you know. One kid was kind of sitting about right here, fell asleep in class. So much fun. Trust me, it's more fun if you're a teacher on this side than to be a student on that side. It's just more fun. You can have a lot of fun. So I just go and sit down by him, and I just stop. And he wakes up. And this is like the second week of class. He had this look, like, oh my God. He just looked and said, would you like some coffee? He goes, I'm fine. So I go back up and finish the lecture, and he never shows up again. He dropped the class. I went to go borrow some money from my company once. And I won't mention the bank, but I will mention that I had money there. And I asked to borrow money for my company, less money than I had in the bank. And talked to the vice president, which is not hard to do at a bank. I mean, there are vice presidents in banks. And so I talked to the bank vice president. She says, we're interested. Let me get you to the senior associate executive vice president. I don't know what the title is. Something pretty long. He's supposedly the number 2 in charge. And so I go visit with him. Show him, this is about cardiac, so I showed him the nuclear device and how it works. He goes, I've had that procedure, and I know what you're talking about. You have to sit in this thing. It's claustrophobic. He goes, I couldn't wait to get out. I'm in there for 45 minutes. And he goes, I would have loved to have been in that. Ours is a sit. You just sit down. You're comfortable. You're not claustrophobic, and you're in and out in a couple of minutes. He said, that's great. So now how can we help you? So I told him what we were after, and he said, well, basically what he did was he gave me what one of my other partners told me about, because after the meeting I talked to one of my investors who happened to be in the office, and he said, let me guess, he gave you let me tell you how to run your business speech. He goes, yeah, how'd you know? He goes, I've heard that dozens of times. I said, did you like it? He goes, oh, I never liked it. He goes, did you like it? I said, I was so mad. I called my wife and said, we're moving our money. We're getting a new bank. Because when I got my car, I was holding the steering wheel, and I was sorry. Took everything I could. It took all my strength to be polite and say thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I know you got other work that you need to do. Thanks for letting me come in. And I walked out. That's not what I wanted to say. No, I had other words, many of which I cannot repeat in mixed company. And so I called my wife. And she's smarter than I am. That doesn't take a lot. She's smarter than I am. And so I tell her, we need to move our money. She goes, okay, what happened? I told her, well, I was trying to get a loan. She goes, now, do we need a loan? Is that all right? I said, no, that's for the business. But you want to move our money? I said, yeah. She goes, but that's for the business, right? I said, yeah, I hate it when you're right. We can't argue with it. I can't win. And she was right, but it's like, I really wanted, like that's going to show the bank a lesson. You know, me moving some cash. How about not paying the loan back? That would have been one, wouldn't it? And, but that's funny. I taught another class. This is a number of years ago. I used to do the teaching, and I had an honors section of entrepreneurship. And so, in the honors college at the University of Tech, I don't know if it's still this way, there wasn't a limit, so it was 6 kids. That was great. We did a lot of projects. We did a lot of great things. One of the last projects of the year I gave them was, does the SBA, does that help foster business? Does that help entrepreneurs? Does the SBA, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help small businesses. Does it really help entrepreneurs when they're trying to start? Not when they're ongoing, getting mezzanine capital, getting loans down the road to buy additional equipment in the beginning. So I made them, go call a bank, that's an SBA lender, make sure you talk so you don't all call the exact same bank. And then let's meet back next week. So you all come back. How did you find that? What did you find? It was pretty, the consensus was if you're first starting out, you're trying to raise money, or by borrowing money from the SBA at the beginning, it's just not going to happen. Okay? You're going to have to put your own money in, lots of other things. The last guy goes. He was an engineer. And he says, well, no, it just, for that it doesn't work. The SBA is more of a lending, so if you don't need, it's kind of like the old adage, if you don't need the money, the bank will loan it to you. Well, that's kind of what he says. Okay, well, that's great. Who'd you talk to? Well, I talked to this bank. That's my bank. Who did you talk to in the bank? And I started to tell him the story about the banker who gave me the, let me tell you how to run your business speech. And I stopped. I don't know why to this day I stopped, but I didn't do it. So I asked him, okay, well, who did you talk to? He said, I talked to this guy. That's the guy who gave me the speech. And I started to, before I told him the story, thank the Lord. I said, why did you pick that banker or pick him? He goes, because he's my dad. Could you imagine? I would have definitely had to move my money at that point. I said, do you have a 4-point? Because you're not getting one this semester. I just said, I've met your dad. We didn't do a business together. He may remember me. I remember him. It was, I could have just envisioned me telling him the story and then him going, that's my dad. That was terrible. Oh. Anyway, so this stuff is a lot of fun. Entrepreneurship is a lot of fun. There are days when it's really fun. And there are days you go, I have a friend of mine, he's a CFO of one of the companies that we've invested in and put some money in. And he's going into this. He has not been a CFO at a company before that's been started. It's been maybe in others that have been established. So he's got some good experience, pretty sharp guy, very likable, nice guy, hard worker. Anyway, he was just talking, well, you've done this. What any advice? What's it like? I said, well, I tell you, you're going to go in some days and go, man, this is great. I love it. And there are going to be some days you're going, what in the hell am I doing here? And I said, the problem is you don't know which days are which. You can't run the calendar. Well, today is a crappy day. Tuesday, I'll plan that to be a good one. Thursday looks, Friday's going to be great. You just don't know. You go in Monday morning and you get stuff done, and you may be done by noon with a list of 20 things you want to get done. You're like, wow, this is great. There'll be other days you got 3 things you want to accomplish. Go in on Monday morning, you get there before anybody else, and you realize, oh, the world is falling apart. And everything that you plan on doing doesn't even get touched. And you just get stuck with, imagine walking in and you got a pop final exam. And you didn't know it. Worse than that, it's 100% of your grade. That's kind of how some days are. Other days, it's like you get one of these get out of jail card free kind of deal. But this is great. It's just kind of like that. Entrepreneurship is great. It's a process. What I like to think about is a process of how do you figure out what something's worth? How do you put something together? How do you make and create something of value to other people that they would say, I will invest with you? But the process you go through evaluating is not any different than getting a job at an organization. The process is almost the same. In fact, if you follow the entrepreneurial process, which you should, it's easy. Because you'll get a project and you go to work for a company and they'll go, we've got an opportunity. Here's a gentleman who's got a company and he's asked if we would be willing to invest in his company, or he's interested in selling the company. Or we've identified this technology. There's a patent over here that would really help our product. Go evaluate that. Go see if you can find out what it's worth. How much is that patent worth? Okay? And you don't get a big list of, give me the book of the 20 things I have to do first to find out. It's a process. That's not any different. You put a team together, you start working, you start evaluating what's the market, okay? What's it worth? Who's the customer? Who would buy this thing? Okay? Why would they buy it? So you just look at all that stuff. That's not any different than being an entrepreneur. The only big difference is the risk side. And with risk, you look for the reward as well. Okay? And that's the piece that's the different part. But as far as the process is concerned, really, it's a great process. It helps you when you get inside of an organization and go, we've got an opportunity to buy this company. They've run into some trouble, have a little cash flow issue. We think we can buy them. What are they worth? And you have to evaluate. You have to figure out, how much is it worth? What's the valuation? What would we pay for it? And you get to negotiate. So there are a lot of fun things that happen. With Alamosa, one of the things we learned when we went public was that freed up a lot of things for us, a lot of different, because now we had a stock price, we had publicly traded currency. And so when we went through acquisitions, we bought the area, I think, Wichita Falls and part of Oklahoma, we bought that company. We bought a company down in Georgia. We ended up with Green Bay. We didn't buy that one. We ended up with Green Bay. We used to go to Green Bay every week. It was pretty neat. You know, you're meeting in Brett Favre's Steakhouse, planning out the entire network and everything. It's a lot of fun. Really a neat town in the summer. It's not quite as nice in the winter unless you like snow. I'm Southern, so I don't speak cold as well as I should. So we made a lot of acquisitions. We bought some stuff in Washington and Oregon. So we grew. We were able to do that without cash. We were able to do that through issuance of stock. We would issue new stock. And with that, you got to figure out how it works because it's diluted. Okay? If I have 100 shares and I give out 20 more, now I own less. If I own 10 out of 100, I've got 10%. You now put out 20 more shares, I don't own 10% anymore. So I've been diluted from that standpoint. Okay? What you have to figure out, this is part of the process, is this going to be accretive to us as stockholders? And I run into this a lot with entrepreneurs. They think about percentage. I own 10% or I own 100%. And we always try to move them to stock price. How much is the price per share right now? It's $1. What if you were to do this and it doubles the price? Would you be willing to take some dilution if you don't own 100%, but now you've got stock worth twice as much? That's how we try to always get entrepreneurs and inventors to look at that. And so we go and we looked at the accretive nature of that, and it was highly accretive. We bought one company because there was an investor who owned stock in both. You can see the numbers, and they evaluate all the public information. You can see Alamosa performed this well. This other company performed not quite as well. And so they encouraged us to buy that company. And the thought process is quite easy. If they could raise them, if you could buy them, and so now bring them up to that, it all of a sudden becomes very accretive to your stockholders. That's what you look for. Is how do you make your stockholders money? How do you make them? That's how we measure business, right? I mean, I'm not discounting the social things that you can do. And I was talking to some students once a few years ago, and one goes, well, what about brought up the balanced scorecard, things like that. What about the social? And I said, well, maybe it's easy if we just kind of talk about it this way. It's real hard to give away and do profit sharing if you don't have any profit. It's real hard to give money away if you don't have any money. So if you can do well in business and get a profit, then you have the ability to give profit away.